A millionaire pays his secretary to have a baby. But 1 year later, he was shocked by what he saw. Nathan Grayson sat in his sleek minimalist office, the skyline of Manhattan stretching behind him through floor-to-ceiling windows. The late afternoon sunlight bathed the room in a golden glow, but the atmosphere between him and Emily Ward was anything but warm. Seated across from him, Emily's hands were clasped tightly on her lap, her face a mix of incredulity and frustration. Her dark eyes bore into Nathan's calm, detached expression, searching for a crack in his composure. "You can't be serious," she said, her voice low but firm. "You're asking me to, what? Carry your child, like it's just another line in a job description?" Nathan leaned back in his leather chair, fingers steepled in front of him. His tailored navy suit was immaculate, his demeanor composed. "I am entirely serious, Emily. This is a business proposition, nothing more." Emily scoffed, shaking her head. "You don't think there's something deeply wrong with what you're suggesting?" Nathan shrugged. "It's a practical solution. I've had relationships before, and they've been nothing but distractions. I don't want a wife or the entanglements that come with one. I want an heir. Someone to inherit my legacy and carry my name forward. You're intelligent, capable, and, frankly, the only person I trust enough to consider this." "That's supposed to be flattering," Emily shot back. Her voice rose slightly, tinged with disbelief. "You trust me enough to pay me to have your child, but not enough to treat me as a person." Nathan's gaze didn't waver. "This isn't personal, it's practical. And I believe you're pragmatic enough to see the benefit in this arrangement." Emily leaned forward, placing her palms flat on the glass desk between them. "Benefit? You think money solves everything? What about my reputation, my dignity? Do you have any idea what kind of judgment I'd face if people knew about this?" Nathan's expression softened ever so slightly, though his tone remained measured. "That's why everything would be discreet. No one would know. You would have my full support throughout the process, financial, medical, whatever you need. And at the end, you'd receive a sum that could eliminate your debts and give you the freedom you've been working so hard for." Emily paused, her heart pounding. She thought of her mounting bills, the weight of her younger sister's tuition, and her mother's medical expenses. She thought of the nights spent calculating how to stretch a paycheck that always seemed too small. But then she thought of the cost, not just to her reputation, but to her own sense of self. "What happens after the baby is born?" she asked, her voice quieter now, tinged with both curiosity and caution. Nathan straightened slightly in his chair. "You would relinquish all parental rights. The child would be mine entirely. Legally, financially, emotionally. You would have no further obligations or ties." "No ties?" Emily repeated, a hollow laugh escaping her lips. "You make it sound so simple, but it's not, Nathan. It's a child, not a business deal." Nathan's jaw tightened, and for the first time, a flicker of frustration crossed his face. "I'm not treating it lightly, Emily. I've thought this through more than you can imagine. I know exactly what I'm asking, and I know exactly why I chose you. You're not just any employee. You're someone I respect, someone I know can handle this." "Handle this?" Emily repeated, sitting back in her chair and crossing her arms. "This isn't about handling something, Nathan. It's about living with it. You can throw all the money in the world at me, but that doesn't make this decision any less monumental." Nathan exhaled slowly, leaning forward this time, his gaze intent. "Emily, I've built everything I have by making decisions that others couldn't. I've taken risks, calculated outcomes, and secured my future. This is no different. I'm offering you an opportunity, one that could change your life. But I need you to decide if you're willing to take it." Emily stared at him, her mind racing. His words hung in the air, heavy with promise and pressure. She could feel the weight of her financial struggles pressing down on her like a suffocating fog. This deal could lift that burden, give her and her family a fresh start. But at what cost? "I need to know one thing," she said finally, her voice sharp but her eyes sharp. "Why me? You could have anyone do this. Someone who wouldn't ask questions. Someone who wouldn't care." Nathan hesitated for a fraction of a second before answering. "Because I know you're different. You don't bend under pressure. You don't give up. And most importantly, I trust you to see this through with the same determination you bring to everything else." Emily's breath caught. It wasn't the answer she expected, and it threw her off balance. But she couldn't ignore the sincerity in his voice, however coldly it was delivered. "I'll need time to think about this," she said finally, standing up and smoothing her skirt. Nathan nodded, rising as well. "Take all the time you need, but know this. This opportunity won't stay open forever." Emily turned to leave, but stopped at the door, looking back at him with a mix of defiance and uncertainty. "You might see this as just another deal, Nathan, but for me, it's so much more. Don't forget that." With that, she walked out, leaving Nathan alone in his opulent office. He watched her go, a flicker of something unspoken crossing his face. As the door clicked shut, he sat back down and stared out at the city skyline, his mind already calculating the next steps. Emily stepped into the spacious guest house on Nathan's estate, her suitcase feeling woefully small against the backdrop of opulence surrounding her. The interior was pristine and luxurious, with polished wood floors, modern furniture, and a view of sprawling gardens through floor-to-ceiling windows. Everything about it screamed wealth. Wealth she had never experienced, and never sought. She placed her suitcase down, running her fingers along the marble countertop in the open-concept kitchen. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Stephanie, Nathan's assistant, stood at the door, her professional smile firmly in place. "If you need anything, Miss Ward, I'm just a call away," Stephanie said, handing Emily a phone with pre-programmed numbers. "Mr. Grayson has ensured that you'll have everything you require." "Thanks," Emily replied, her voice uncertain. As Stephanie left, Emily sat down on the edge of the plush couch, feeling like an intruder in someone else's world. This wasn't her life. It was a transaction, a temporary role she had agreed to play. Nathan, meanwhile, remained distant. Days passed with him rarely showing up at the guest house. When he did, his visits were brief and strictly professional. He asked how Emily was feeling, reviewed medical updates from her doctor, and left before any real conversation could begin. Emily's frustration grew with each interaction. One evening, as Nathan stood by the door, preparing to leave after a perfunctory check-in, she couldn't hold back any longer. "Is this how it's going to be for the next 9 months?" she asked, her arms crossed. Nathan turned, his expression as calm and unyielding as ever. "I'm not sure what you mean." "I mean this," Emily gestured between them. "You treat me like a piece of machinery, a means to an end. You barely acknowledge that I'm a person, Nathan." His jaw tightened. "I provided you with everything you need. If there's something missing, let me know, and I'll ensure it's taken care of." "That's not what I mean," Emily said, her voice rising. "I'm carrying a child, a human being, your child, and you act like it's just another item on your to-do list." Nathan regarded her for a moment, his steely composure betraying a flicker of discomfort. This arrangement was never meant to be personal, Emily. You knew that when you agreed to it." Emily shook her head, exhaling sharply. "You're impossible," she muttered as he walked out, leaving her alone in the vast silence of the guest house. The weeks that followed were a mix of adjustments and discomfort for Emily. The estate staff, though professional, looked at her with thinly veiled curiosity. Whispers followed her as she strolled through the gardens or sat in the library. To them, she was an enigma, a working-class woman plucked from obscurity and placed in the lap of luxury. Many assumed the worst. One evening, Emily attended a dinner Nathan had insisted she join to keep up appearances. The gathering was a mix of his wealthy acquaintances and business partners. Emily, wearing a simple dress Nathan had provided, felt like a fish out of water amidst the designer-clad elite. As the evening progressed, she couldn't ignore the sideways glances and hushed murmurs. At one point, while waiting near the dessert table, she overheard two women talking nearby. "Did you hear? She's the one carrying Nathan's child," one whispered, her tone dripping with disdain. "Really? I thought she'd at least look the part. What does he see in her? Surely he could have chosen someone classier," the other replied with a sneer. "You've asked a great many maids," Hannah said, her tone conveying her skepticism of the other's reply. Emily's face burned with humiliation. She clenched her fists, fighting the urge to storm out. Instead, she turned and walked straight to Nathan, who was deep in conversation with an investor. "Nathan," she interrupted, her voice steady despite her anger. "Can we talk?" He excused himself, his brow furrowing as he followed her to a quieter corner. "What is it?" he asked, his tone neutral. "Oh, I just had a nightmare," she said, her voice breaking in the startled silence. Emily crossed her arms, her eyes blazing. "Do you have any idea what people are saying about me here?" Nathan's expression remained impassive. "It doesn't matter what they say. You know the truth, and so do I." "It does matter," Emily shot back. "You brought me into this world, your world, and you expect me to just ignore the way people treat me like I'm some gold digger, or worse?" Nathan exhaled sharply. "This is temporary, Emily. Once the child is born, these people won't be part of your life anymore." Emily stared at him, her frustration boiling over. "Do you even hear yourself? You think throwing money at someone makes everything okay? That people don't need basic respect?" Nathan's gaze hardened. "Respect is earned, not given." Emily took a step closer, her voice lowering, but losing none of its intensity. "And what have you done to earn mine, Nathan?" The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswerable. For the first time, Nathan looked unsure, his usually unshakable demeanor faltering. Before he could respond, Emily turned on her heel and left the party, her heart pounding with anger and hurt. The next morning, Nathan visited the guest house unannounced. Emily, still stewing from the previous night, opened the door reluctantly. "I wanted to apologize," Nathan said, his tone uncharacteristically soft. "Not for the party. I can't control what people say, but for dismissing your feelings." Emily raised an eyebrow, surprised. "That's, unexpected." Nathan nodded. "I've been focused on the practical aspects of this arrangement, but I didn't consider how difficult this must be for you. I'll do better." Emily hesitated, searching his face for sincerity. "You can start by treating me like a person, not just someone carrying your child." Nathan gave a small nod. "Fair enough." A week later, during a routine medical appointment, Emily and Nathan found themselves in the exam room together. The doctor adjusted the ultrasound machine, and soon the rhythmic sound of a heartbeat filled the room. Emily's breath caught as she looked at the screen, tears welling in her eyes. Despite everything, the sound was magical, a reminder of the life growing inside her. She glanced at Nathan and was shocked to see a similar reaction. His usually stoic face had softened, his eyes fixed on the screen with an intensity she hadn't seen before. "It's yours," Nathan said, keeping his eyes fixed on Florin's, while the other two watched the movie in avid attention. Florence grinned, parting her thin lips and revealing the rest of her face. "It's strong," the doctor said with a smile. "Everything looks perfect." Nathan nodded, his gaze never leaving the monitor. For a moment, he seemed to forget about contracts, arrangements, and appearances. He was simply a man about to become a father. As they left the office, Nathan surprised Emily by opening the car door for her. On the ride back, the usual tension between them felt lighter, replaced by a fragile sense of connection. That evening, Emily returned to the guest house to find a small package waiting for her. Inside was a collection of books she had once mentioned liking during an offhand conversation with Nathan. Tucked between the pages was a note in his neat handwriting. "I thought these might help pass the time." Emily smiled despite herself, holding the books close. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The day began like any other, with Emily enjoying a quiet morning in the garden, a book resting in her lap. The sprawling estate was peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos her life had once been. But the serenity didn't last. Nathan approached, his polished demeanor intact, but with an air of curiosity that Emily had grown used to. "Good morning," he greeted, sitting down beside her. His tailored suit seemed out of place amidst the lush greenery. "Morning," Emily replied, her tone neutral but polite. Nathan gestured toward the book in her hands. "What are you reading?" Emily hesitated before showing him the cover. "It's a novel about resilience, something I can relate to." Nathan studied her expression for a moment. "You have that in spades." Emily blinked, taken aback by the compliment. "Thank you, I think." He leaned back, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "You've managed to handle all this arrangement, the changes, better than I expected." Emily arched an eyebrow. "What did you expect? That I'd break down crying in a corner?" Nathan gave a faint smile. "Honestly, I wasn't sure. People tend to crumble under pressure, but not you." Emily set the book aside, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "You think surviving makes me strong? It's not strength, Nathan. It's necessity. When you don't have options, you fight, because there's no other choice." Her words hung in the air, piercing through Nathan's usual confidence. "Is that why you agreed to this?" he asked after a moment. "Because you felt like you had no choice?" Emily sighed, looking away. "Partly. My family needed me to step up. My mom is gone, my dad left years ago, and my sister's education. It's my responsibility now." "You offered a way out of drowning." Nathan absorbed her words, his usual detached composure faltering. "I didn't know." "You didn't ask," Emily replied, her tone sharp but not unkind. "You never cared to." That conversation lingered with Nathan throughout the day. For the first time, he saw Emily not as a participant in a transaction, but as a person with a life shaped by sacrifices and struggles. It unsettled him in ways he couldn't explain. Later that evening, Nathan found Emily in the library. She was sketching in the notebook he'd given her, the lines on the page fluid and expressive. He stood in the doorway for a moment, watching her. "You draw well," he said, stepping inside. Emily glanced up, surprised. "Thanks. It helps me think." Nathan hesitated before sitting across from her. "I used to draw as a kid," he admitted. "Nothing impressive, but it was an escape." Emily tilted her head, intrigued. "What happened?" He shrugged. "Life, expectations. My father thought art was a waste of time, so I stopped." Emily studied him, seeing the cracks in his armor. "Do you ever miss it?" Nathan didn't answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. "Sometimes." For a brief moment, the space between them felt smaller, the walls Nathan had built around himself slightly lowered. The turning point came a week later, during one of Emily's routine checkups. Nathan had started accompanying her more frequently, though he often claimed it was for logistical reasons. They were returning to the estate when Emily suggested stopping for a walk at a nearby park. Nathan hesitated but eventually agreed. The park was quiet, the crisp air filled with the scent of blooming flowers. Emily enjoyed the simplicity of it. while Nathan seemed out of his element in such a casual setting. As they walked, Emily suddenly froze, clutching her stomach. A sharp pain shot through her, and she stumbled. "Nathan!" she gasped, her face pale. Without hesitation, Nathan caught her before she fell. His usual calm shattered as panic flashed across his face. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Emily shook her head, her breath shallow. "Something's wrong. The baby—" "We're going to the hospital, now." Nathan's voice was firm, but his hands trembled as he scooped her up and carried her to the car. The drive was a blur. Nathan barked orders into his phone, arranging for doctors to be ready upon their arrival. Emily, writhing in pain, was vaguely aware of his voice, steady and commanding despite the fear she saw in his eyes. At the hospital, a team of medical professionals whisked Emily away, leaving Nathan pacing in the waiting area. Every minute felt like an eternity. The memory of her pain, her helplessness, gnawed at him. For the first time in years, he felt powerless. Hours later, the doctor approached. "She's stable, and so is the baby. It was a scare, but everything is fine for now. She'll need rest and monitoring." Relief washed over Nathan like a tidal wave. "Can I see her?" "Not in court," he told her before limping away. The doctor nodded, leading him to her room. Emily lay in bed, her face pale but her eyes open. She gave him a weak smile as he entered. "You're still here?" she teased, her voice hoarse. Nathan sat beside her, his usual guarded expression replaced with one of vulnerability. "Of course I am. You scared me." Emily raised an eyebrow. "You don't scare easily." He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I do when it comes to you and the baby." The words hung between them, heavier than either expected. Nathan reached out, hesitating before placing a hand over hers. "I didn't think I'd care this much, but I do." Emily's eyes softened. "You're not as heartless as you like to pretend, you know." Nathan chuckled dryly. "Don't tell anyone. It'll ruin my reputation." For the first time, they shared a genuine laugh. In that moment, the walls Nathan had built around himself began to crumble, and Emily realized that beneath his cold exterior was a man capable of far more than she had given him credit for. The scare brought them closer. Nathan began spending more time with Emily, checking on her well-being and engaging in conversations that went beyond logistics. He asked about her family, her dreams, her fears. Emily, in turn, saw a side of him that was kind, thoughtful, and even humorous. One evening, as they sat on the terrace overlooking the city lights, Nathan opened up about his past. "I grew up watching my parents use people," he confessed, his voice low. "Everything was a transaction to them, even love. I swore I'd never be like that, but somehow I ended up the same." Emily placed a hand on his arm. "You're not them, Nathan. You can be different." He looked at her, his eyes searching hers. "Maybe you're right. You've already proven me wrong about a lot of things." As the city lights twinkled in the distance, they sat in comfortable silence, two people who had started as strangers bound by a contract, now finding something neither had expected: connection. The days leading up to Emily's due date were filled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. She often found herself sitting in the nursery, her hands resting on her belly, wondering what the future held for her and the baby. Nathan, for all his calculated demeanor, was beginning to show signs of nervousness as well. His questions became less about logistics and more about feelings. One evening, as they sat in the library, Emily decided to voice her concerns. "Nathan," she began, her tone serious, "when the baby comes, what kind of father do you want to be?" He looked up from the document he had been reviewing, his expression unreadable. "I want to provide everything they need: security, stability, opportunities." Emily shook her head. That's not what I meant. I'm asking about love, Nathan. Will you love this child for who they are, not for what they represent to you? Nathan frowned, setting the papers aside. Of course I'll love them, but why are you asking me this now? Because I've seen how you approach life, Emily said, her voice steady. You plan, you calculate, you control. Children aren't like that. They'll challenge you, surprise you, and sometimes disappoint you. Can you handle that? Nathan leaned back in his chair, considering her words. I've never thought about it that way, but I'll try. For them. For them, Emily echoed, nodding, and for yourself. Don't let fear or control dictate your relationship with this child. When the day finally arrived, it came with a whirlwind of emotions. Emily went into labor in the early hours of the morning, and Nathan was by her side throughout the process. He held her hand as she braved the pain, his own calm facade cracking as he saw her struggle. When the first cries of the baby filled the room, Nathan felt a wave of relief and joy, unlike anything he had ever experienced. The doctor announced, "It's a boy," and handed the baby to Emily, who looked at him with tears in her eyes. But when the nurse brought over the second baby, "It's a girl," Nathan noticed something that made his breath catch. On her left shoulder was a small, crescent-shaped birthmark. It was an exact match to the one his late father had. Nathan's mind raced. He stared at the birthmark, memories of his father flashing through his mind. It wasn't just a coincidence. There had to be a connection. A few days later, after they had returned home with the twins, Nathan couldn't shake the thought. Driven by curiosity and a need for answers, he ordered a discreet DNA test. The results, which arrived 2 weeks later, left him stunned. Emily was a distant relative, connected to his family lineage through a shared ancestor. Nathan sat in his office, staring at the results in disbelief. The revelation felt like a twist of fate, a connection he hadn't anticipated. It made everything feel more personal, more profound. But it also left him questioning his own intentions. Had fate brought Emily into his life for a reason? Or had he simply been too blind to see the significance of their meeting earlier? When Emily found out about the DNA test, she was furious. She stormed into Nathan's office, holding the results he had left on his desk. "What the hell is this, Nathan?" she demanded, her voice trembling with anger. Nathan looked up, his expression guilty. "Emily, I can explain. You investigated me? After everything we've been through, you still don't trust me?" "It wasn't about trust," Nathan said, standing to face her. "It was about understanding. I needed to know—" "No," Emily interrupted, her voice rising. "You needed control, just like you always do. You couldn't handle not knowing, so you invaded my privacy. Do you even realize what that says about you?" Nathan's shoulders sagged, and for the first time he looked genuinely ashamed. "You're right," he admitted. "I acted out of fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing you." Emily blinked, her anger wavering. "Losing me?" Nathan stepped closer, his voice earnest. "Yes. You've changed everything for me, Emily. I didn't expect to feel this way, and it scares me. But I know now that I can't let fear control me anymore." Emily stared at him, her emotions swirling. She wanted to stay angry, but his vulnerability disarmed her. "Nathan, trust is everything. If you can't trust me, then this, whatever this is, won't work." "I know," I said softly. "And I'm sorry. I'll prove to you that I can do better, that I can let go of control and just trust." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Emily nodded, her anger giving way to cautious hope. "You'd better mean it, Nathan." "I do," he replied, his voice firm. I do. Nathan sat in the nursery, cradling his son as the soft light of dawn filtered through the windows. It was a rare sight, this once aloof man now completely absorbed in the tiny life resting in his arms. Across the room, Emily adjusted the baby girl's blanket in her crib, glancing occasionally at Nathan. The shift in him was undeniable, and she couldn't help but feel a flicker of warmth in her chest. "You're getting better at this," Emily said softly, breaking the peaceful silence. Nathan looked up, a faint smile on his lips. "I guess I had a good teacher," Emily laughed lightly, shaking her head. "It's not something you can teach. You just have to care." "And I do," Nathan replied earnestly, his gaze meeting hers, "more than I thought I ever could." Over the next few weeks, their dynamic continued to change. Nathan became more involved in the twins' daily routines, from feeding to late-night diaper changes. He even started reading parenting books, a sight Emily never thought she'd see. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, with the twins napping in their bassinets nearby, Nathan turned to Emily. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," he began. "About trust, about control. I want to do better. Not just for the twins, but for you." Emily set down her tea, surprised by his openness. "Nathan, you've already made so many changes. You're trying, and that's what matters." He shook his head. "It's not enough. I don't want to just try. I want us to be a family, a real one, not because of a contract, but because it's what I want." Emily's breath caught. She had dreamed of this moment, but hearing the words from him felt almost surreal. "Nathan, this is a big step. Are you sure you're ready for it?" "I've never been more certain," he said, his voice steady. "You and the twins have shown me what I was missing all along. I don't want to go back to the way things were. I want to move forward. With you." Nathan's transformation didn't stop at home. He decided it was time to address the whispers and speculation surrounding his arrangement with Emily. At the company's next board meeting, he stood before his executives and senior staff and said, "I want to take a moment to acknowledge something," Nathan began, his tone firm but calm. "There have been rumors about my personal life. Today, I'm here to put them to rest." He paused, scanning the room. Emily Ward is not just the mother of my children. She is someone I deeply respect and care for. And together, we're raising a family." A murmur swept through the room, but Nathan didn't waver. "I've learned that vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a strength, and I intend to lead this company with the same values I want to instill in my family: honesty, inclusivity, and care for one another." The room fell silent. Then, one by one, the executives began to nod, some even clapping softly. Emily, who had been watching from the back, felt tears prick her eyes. Nathan's willingness to stand by her and their children so publicly was a gesture she would never forget. As the months passed, Emily and Nathan worked together to create a home filled with love and laughter. Nathan's once-called mansion transformed into a warm and inviting space, with baby toys scattered across the living room and the scent of Emily's cooking wafting from the kitchen. Nathan also made changes at the company, implementing family-friendly policies and supporting initiatives to help working parents. Emily, drawing from her own experiences, became an advisor in these efforts, ensuring the company fostered a more inclusive and compassionate environment. One evening, as they sat in the garden watching the twins play on a blanket, Nathan reached for Emily's hand. "I never thought I'd have this," he admitted. "A family, a sense of purpose beyond work." Emily smiled, squeezing his hand. "You've come a long way, Nathan, and you've earned this." He looked at her, his expression soft. "I couldn't have done it without you. You've shown me what it means to care, to trust, to love." Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she leaned closer, resting her head on his shoulder. "And you've shown me that people can change, that there's always hope." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, the sound of the twins' laughter filled the air. It was a simple moment, but for Nathan and Emily, it was everything. They had built something real, something worth holding on to. The twins' first birthday was a sunny affair, filled with laughter, balloons, and the hum of cheerful conversation. The once cold mansion was unrecognizable, now brimming with warmth and life. Friends, family, and colleagues gathered in the sprawling garden, where tables were adorned with colorful decorations, and a two-tiered cake stood proudly at the center. Children ran around, their laughter blending with the cheerful melodies of a live string quartet. Nathan stood at the edge of the crowd, watching as Emily helped the twins blow out the single candles on their small smash cakes. His heart swelled with pride and gratitude. These moments, so simple yet profound, were once unimaginable to him. Emily caught his gaze and smiled, motioning for him to join them. Nathan walked over, picking up their son as Emily held their daughter. Together, they faced their guests, the epitome of a family united. Later, after the party had wound down and the guests had left, Nathan and Emily sat on the porch swing, the twins fast asleep upstairs. The quiet of the evening was a stark contrast to the day's festivities, offering a moment for reflection. "Do you remember where we were a year ago?" Emily asked, her voice soft. Nathan chuckled, his expression thoughtful. "I was probably in my office, buried in contracts, trying to keep every emotion at bay. And you—" He looked at her with a mixture of admiration and remorse. "You were walking into this arrangement, probably thinking I was the coldest man alive." Emily laughed lightly, nudging him with her shoulder. "I wasn't wrong." "No, you weren't," he admitted, his tone serious. "But you stayed. You saw something in me I didn't even see in myself. You gave me a chance to be better. And you gave me a chance to believe in people again," Emily replied. "You showed me that even when people make mistakes, they can change if they want to." Their journey together had inspired more than just personal growth. After months of planning, Nathan and Emily had launched a foundation aimed at supporting single parents and working families. The initiative provided resources, childcare support, and financial literacy programs, ensuring no one had to face the struggles Emily once endured alone. "It's funny," Emily said, breaking the silence. "The foundation, it feels like the twins have already left their mark on the world." Nathan nodded, his gaze distant but content. "They've brought out the best in us. In a way, they've been the greatest teachers I've ever had." Emily turned to him, her eyes shining. "And to think, all of this started with a contract." Nathan smiled, his hand finding hers, and ended with something so much more. As the evening wore on, they moved inside, stopping by the nursery to check on the twins. Nathan gently adjusted the blanket covering his son, while Emily leaned over the crib, brushing a strand of hair from their daughter's forehead. They stood there for a moment, side by side, watching the steady rise and fall of tiny chests. "They've changed everything," Nathan whispered. Emily nodded, her heart full. "And we've changed too, for the better." The next morning, Emily found a small note on her nightstand. In Nathan's precise handwriting, it read, "Lout me up, et vous pois senuton." "Emily, thank you for giving me a life I never thought I deserved. You, the twins, and our journey together have shown me the meaning of love and purpose. I promise to keep learning, growing, and building this life with you. For all of us. Yours, Nathan." Tears welled in her eyes as she read the words. It wasn't just a note, it was a promise, a testament to how far they had come. The twins' laughter echoed through the house as the family gathered in the garden later that day. Nathan held their son's hands, helping him toddle across the grass, while Emily spun their daughter around, both of them laughing under the bright blue sky. And Nathan and Emily, This wasn't just a new chapter, it was the start of a story they would write together, one filled with love, growth, and the unbreakable bonds of family. And so, Nathan and Emily's story teaches us that even the most unexpected beginnings can lead to a lifetime of love, growth, and meaningful change. Their journey from a cold, transactional arrangement to building a family full of warmth and purpose is a testament to the power of transformation, trust, and second chances. What did you think about Nathan's incredible journey? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights mean the world to us. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And of course, don't miss out on more heartwarming tales like this one. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay updated on all our emotional and inspirational stories. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.